I'm Stephanie, the creative girl behind the designs. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, thanks for stopping by, and if you haven't already done so, I would truly appreciate if you would subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification alerts so that you know when I post my next video. I have some fun videos coming up next week and a little bit of a change up in my planner system, so definitely turn on those notifications. So happy Friday. It is a Friday, and where I am, it's a beautiful sunny day. Not quite warm yet, but I'll take the sun any day. And so I'm just going to take a little break from the planning and do something fun and creative and a little bit relaxing, for me anyway. And that is to practice some lettering, which I am very lax in doing. So what I'm going to do today for you is practice one letter. I'm going to practice a lowercase letter, and I'm going to use green colors just because it's so sunny and spring-like out. And I have each of the brush pens that I have in my craft room and that I do use on a regular basis. Depending on what I'm doing, I'll use one of these pens. And each of these pens and their styles will be listed on the blog for purchase. They are under behindthedesigns.blog, and on the hello menu, it's a drop down menu, and you go to shop my posts. And I'll make sure to put that link in the bottom of the description as well. So what I'm going to do is just jump right in. It's going to kind of be a semi-quick video, and we're going to practice some lettering today. So let me get started, and I'm going to keep these pens in order. I did a little test before I came online here, and I just want to keep them in order so that I have the same pen for the line that the letter that I'm doing in the line that I'm setting it up on. So let me show you what I did. So if you recall, I'm actually going to just show you this quickly. I don't remember if I showed the labels or not. So in my lettering big happy planner, I created 3 tabs. I have a practice tab, I have examples, and then I also have my sheets. So in each of these, they hold, so in the first one, it'll hold practice sheets, extra practice sheets. Under examples, I have just things I printed off the internet. I did take some lettering classes a few years ago, so I have some samples that they were provided. And then just my sheets, which are basically all my test sheets and things I've kind of jotted things down on. So what I'm going to do is pull from the examples, and I'm going to pull out a lowercase sheet to use as a guide. So this is the sheet I'm going to use, and these I received from a class I took. They were just examples and practice sheets that I can use. And then I'm going to keep right in the book, and I'm just going to flip my tab around. And as you can see, I have already done a sample test using green, and I used each of the pens, and you can see how the thickness of each. And so when you're practicing, so for example, let me just get a pen here. I can show you quick. So when you're writing in script or lettering, your up strokes are going to be thin. So if you're going up this way or up this way, they'll be the thin line. And then as you come down, all your down strokes are the heavier hand. You want to press down on it. So me being left-handed, I have to hold the pen a certain way just so I can get that angle. And that's part of just what I practice. So I did the A already for each. So I'll go through, do the B, and then I will tell you which pen or pens are my most favorite, like my top 2 favorites. And then each of those will be linked on the blog for you. So what I'm going to do is just kind of set this little practice sheet aside so that it's not in the way. And I'm going to do the letter B. We're going to start with Artist Loft. So as I'm doing my lettering, hopefully I won't be too quiet for you, but I'm going to do each pen, 2 letters of each pen, and then I'll talk a little bit more about each pen. So this is the Artist Loft. It is just a green color. And so when I do my B, oh, you know what? I need to just kind of slip this out a bit. I'm left-handed, and being left-handed, I can never really get to where the angle I need with discs or spirals. Spiral notebooks, there's no way around it. I had to work with it. But with the Happy Planner system, the beauty of it is I can just easily pop the page out, pop it back in when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and get this angle here for the B. So on the B, we're going to do a thin upstroke and then a heavier downstroke. And there's no right or wrong. Now, when I took my lettering classes, I remember distinctly being told that, you know, tracing over a practice sheet or a letter isn't the best way to do the letter or practice your lettering, because then you become used to, your muscle memory is going to become used to someone else's technique. So that you should build your own technique and just use these as models. And that's pretty much what I do, because again, I'm left-handed. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see how today works out. But this is the artist loft, so we're going to go. And again, my angle of my hand is not the same that yours might be. Now I do this for my B, but if you notice in the writing here, it comes down and then it goes up and loops around. So let me do that for the second one. And so it's just very light-handed. And then of course I'm heavy-handed when I write too. So I have to be very aware of what I'm doing when I'm writing. So let's see, up, down. Oh, I came up again. I'm gonna do another B. I gotta go up, down. There we go. So we're gonna go up, down, up. So see how I'm not used to that number of strokes in mine. So, you know, my B's look better this way. So let's try that again. Sometimes and that's where the muscle memory comes in, and you can see from here, is that one, with a B, you're doing multiple strokes. But for me, transitioning from the heavy to the light, that's where I have to practice. So that is the artist loft. Let's move on to Tombow. And then what I did on each line as well was I wrote what underneath it, what pen it was, so that I'll always know for my purpose, which pen gave what effect, let's say. So let's do another B. I'm going to do 2 my way, and then 2, I'll try the way that was given in the example. Oop. So this is going to be a B, no pun intended. Now with the Tombow, it has like a longer brush, and each one, let me find one that would be a good example. I think this one. So yes, you can see the difference in the brush length. And that's going to determine also, how much, how heavy you have to be or not. For me, I find that the shorter tips work better. But also with the lettering, it depends on the letter that you're doing. So, if there's fewer up and down, that's going to make a difference as well. But above all, the best thing you can do is just practice. And of course, when I'm talking, it makes it harder, but so sometimes I may go silent just because I'm practicing. So let's see, we're going to do 2 their way. Now the B is very similar to an H, in my opinion. I think that's why I do it this way. And you'll see that as I practice. Yeah, so my upstrokes are a little shaky, but that's all the point of practicing. And let's see, so this one's the Tombow Fudanasuki. I'm going to do 2 my way and 2 the other way. And then 2 their way. I find too that I have more control over some brushes than others. So again, some of that's the tip, some of that is muscle memory and so forth. So muscle memory can only be built if you're practicing. And I have not been practicing. So I'm going to do 2 again. Oops. That was a little heavy-handed. 2 their way. I don't know, to me the B their way looks almost like an H. Again, I'll try and remember to pull out the next sheet which has the H on it and you can see that. I was also playing around today because I used to be able to, in a way, and I still am really, ambidextrous, which is basically you can write with both hands. Obviously my right hand is a little more shaky or, not as good, but I was just kind of playing around with that again today. I used to do that in school because when I write hard for whatever reason, and my papers just would curl because they were written on so hard. So, and then my hand would hurt. So then sometimes I started writing with my right hand and it just seemed to work out. So it was always just kind of that fun thing. So 2 the old way. This one is a very light brush, I guess I'd say. Like it's very bendable and so you really got to have control over it. Oops, I did it again. That's okay. Let me do 2 their way. Up again. Okay. Yes, it's very loose, I guess I would call it. So let's see. Now we're into Pentel Touch. We have 2 my way. And then 2 their way. So this brush is coming out very saturated. So I don't think there'll be a bleed through. No, but if it's a regular piece of copy paper, it may bleed through a bit because this one's very saturated, color saturated. So now we're into the Sharpie, which is kind of a new pen in my brush inventory, just because I wanted to give it a try and see how the tip was. With the letter A, I really liked it. So I'm going to do B. And each time you do your letters, it's practice. So even if you're writing in your journal or your planner or even on a piece of paper, if you practice that writing, even with a regular pen, just to get that hand stroke, again, you want to build up your muscle memory. This one's a very loose pen as well. Okay. So here are 2 of each. Some of them I messed up on, obviously. And so let me talk about each of the pens here. So I think by far the longest pen tips are obviously the Tombow and Artist Loft, and then the mild liners. I feel like those are the longest tips. Sometimes, again, I'm going to speak about how it is for me, but when I use a longer tip, I feel like getting from that transition. So from this transition here, when I came down and then I went up, you can see it kind of broke. That for me was a little difficult, but I love Tombow pens, the dual brush pens, because there's so many colors. I have a lot of them. And so I'm really working on practicing with this. Now my daughter writes with this and her script writing is beautiful. Of course, with everything, you never think your writing is beautiful. She doesn't think it's beautiful, but I do. Okay, so that was the Tombow Dual. And then we have the Fudenosuke, which hands down, when I need to reach for a staple brush, this is the pen I reach for. So with Fudenosuke, they come in other colors. They have hard tips and soft tips. So this one happens to be a hard tip. Let me grab my soft tip so you can see the difference. I only have the soft tip in black, but you'll get the point. Let's see, does this one say brush pen? This is a soft tip. So I'll just do in the same line, we have Fudenosuke. So you already know this one because I've done it. So let me do the soft tip so you can see the comparison. So they call it a soft tip, but for me, it depends on what I'm doing. I'll explain in a minute. So I did 2 my way, I'm gonna do 2 their way. Again, my transitions, I just need to work on them. Okay. So I don't know if you can tell exactly, but the hard tip is thinner in all of the strokes. And that's because it's harder to press on, so it's just a sturdier tip. So when I do, let me grab my regular gel pen. When I write and I do faux lettering, I use, so let's say I do this, I'm writing, I just use my gel pen. I did a letter. When I do faux lettering, I use the soft tip to give me that downstroke. You could, again, use any one that you want, whatever you're comfortable with. But for me, I found that the soft tip gives me the downward angle that I want. So let me show you. So I just start at the top. It's on your downstroke, so you just simply give it a downstroke. And then there's no more, at least for the lettering I do. So I use the soft tip when I do faux lettering. And then, so then we had Fudenosuke. Let's go to mild liner. Mild liner is nice as well. It's got a long tip, but it's not terribly long. And again, this is a wrist and muscle memory because it is a slightly longer tip. You need to just kind of control it a little bit better. But I do like it because you have a not as dense saturation of color. So I do prefer these sometimes. I also like to use the brush to do certain letters, like if I do this, and then I can kind of just color, or not color, but use my Micron 01 pen, and I can then just kind of go in and give it some definition, that kind of thing. I'll just finish this off since I started it. Okay. And then next is we have the Pigmo brush, which I have these. I bought them early on, but I really haven't reached for them too often. They're not a bad pen, actually. I mean, they have a slightly longer tip, but it's thin. So let me show you in comparison to, say, Tombow. So see how the actual tip is, it is long, but it's short, but it's actually in diameter thinner than the Tombow. Does it handle differently? I think so. I feel like when I use this brush that it is actually, it's comfortable, but if you don't control it, your upstrokes look hard or heavy, not hard. Okay, Pentel. This is, these were my original brush pens. I forgot, I think someone had given me one and I tried it and it was my first experience with brush pens and I loved it. So I just bought a package of them. I do like these still, but they're, I would say, so my first pen is the Fudenosuke, and then this is sometimes the second pen I reach for, but I feel like these Sharpie pens are going to take its place. I just love that it gives me a different color, and so to my point, let me say this pen to me is equal to the Pentel. The only difference for me is that Pentel has a saturation of color. So when I reach for pens, I would say my top pen is my Fudenosuke. I have mostly the hard tip in the packages, I think is what I purchased. And then I reach for these next. Now, that doesn't mean that I reach for Tombow when I want a specific color that I cannot find in these other brushes. So when I can't find another brush, I'll reach for Tombow. And then sometimes I'll use Tombow's Tombow Dual. I use this end just quickly, and then I use the brush end to give me the downstroke. Again, just another faux lettering, and it gives kind of an edge to it on the inside. So it's not to say that I don't use these, I just haven't practiced enough with them, but they're the direction I'm going into. However, I don't think I'll ever get rid of my Fudenosuke pens because I really do like their upstroke, downstroke. The tip is just perfect. And then the soft tip I can use for decorative writing. And so above all, if I had to name a pen as my #1 pen, it is this pen here. And then all of these will stay in my collection, and I may add to them. But for the most part, I do use them. I use this almost daily, a Fudenosuke. So there you have it. So I've done a little bit of practice, and you can see the difference in the tips, the pressure, when you have to hold the pen a certain way. And again, I'm not an expert by any stretch. Let me show you what I was talking about with the letter B and the letter H when it comes to those practice sheets. So is this the H? Here we go. Let me rip this out. Okay, so if you see, to me, depending on how you use your pressure, the B could end up looking like an H in a way if you don't close your loop good enough. To me, this looks like a wide H. So again, it's all about your technique. You don't want to really copy anyone else's. You build your muscle memory between your hand and your wrist and your arm, and your angle where you need to angle it from and so forth. And before you know it, you'll be on your way. So like I said, I will have these in the on the website behindthedesigns.blog. Here's a little sampling of what we did today. And I hope it's inspired you to start your own lettering notebook or start practicing lettering. You don't even need these sheets, but I will say with regard to hand lettering practice sheets or even letter practice sheets, I think I mentioned this before when I set this up. I recall seeing at Walmart a very thick book of this type of paper, meaning it's for the, how you practice your letters. So if you really want to practice, you can grab that pad if you don't have these papers, because you'd have to order them, I think, from Happy Planner. I don't believe they're available elsewhere, but I will check. So I think that's it for today's video, and I hope I've inspired you to do something creative today and every day, and that you create a beautiful life in your own way, whether it's through one plan, one journal, or one page at a time. Practice that lettering and create your own beautiful life. Thank you for watching.